see a light so it looks like we're live? I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could stand for the pledge.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the April regular meeting of the Community High School District 94 Board of Education. Mission statement, please.
Community High School strives to promote and provide growth experiences in learning, leadership, and living.
Thank you, Rich. Board agreements, please.
No surprises. No one, superintendent, or board members get surprised at any time in the meeting or between meetings.
Thank you, Lynn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Ms. Casey-Mayer.
Here.
Ms. DeRamus.
Present via phone due to health issues.
Here. Mr. Nagel.
Present.
Mr. Sake.
Present.
Mr. Zuniga.
Here.
Okay, that brings us to Student of the Month.
Richard Chad Mayuga named March Student of the Month. West Chicago Community High School has selected Richard Chad Mayuga of West Chicago as Student of the Month for March 2023. He was selected by his teacher who said, "When I think of students who embody West Chicago Community High School values and serve as a role model for others, the first person who comes to mind is Chad Mayuga. Friendly, determined, genuine, kind, smart, open-minded. The list of words to describe Chad goes on and on. Chad is one of the hardest working students I have ever encountered and always willing to go the extra mile to not only complete an assignment, but actually learn and take something away from the activity as well. He is the type of student who will get up to diagram something in the middle of a Socratic seminar to help his peers understand a line of thought or lead a group project. He is a leader in every sense of the word and an excellent student too. Chad is an honor roll student, earning a cumulative weighted grade point average of 5.348. He is a member of the National Honor Society and received the Blue Ribbon Award for outstanding effort in mathematics. Chad participates in track and field, cross country, and basketball. He also serves as a student ambassador and member of the Pep Club. Outside of school, Chad works at the Everclean Car Wash, loading cars and taking care of the facilities. He volunteers coaching for our feeder basketball program, packs meals at Feed My Starving Children, assists with school events like We Go Spooky, and Breakfast with Santa. When asked about his favorite high school memory, Chad said, "I think that would have to be my freshman year. Our homecoming football game, we rushed the field before the game was over, so they had to put us back in the stands. But once the game finally ended, we rushed the field again and raised up one of the football players who was the homecoming king." Chad has this advice for future Wildcats. Make sure you enjoy every moment and get involved in everything, since these are the memories you are going to be looking back on. After graduation, Chad plans to go to University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign to major in recreation, sport, and tourism, or kinesiology. He hopes to attend medical school to become a physician of sports medicine and potentially work for a professional team. Congratulations, Chad.
Well done, Chad. That brings us to the good news of the district.
Migo Drama brings home awards from IHSA State Meet. Following an impressive showing at the IHSA sectionals, WeGo Drama competed in the IHSA State Finals on March 23 through the 25th. The IHSA Drama Competition events were the contest play, the group interpretation, and the student short film. The entire team was recognized with the IHSA Sportsmanship Award. Additionally, Michael Angelis and Alex Bradley received the All-State Cast Awards for their group interpretation performance. Furthermore, Ellie Hurley and Kadia Mangiolo received All-State Cast Awards for their contest play performance. Finally, the student film called The Space Between was rated as first place exemplary. Alex Bradley, who assisted on the film and performed in both the contest play and group interpretation, continues. That is the best part of making it to state. Don't get me wrong, I'm so happy to be named an all-state member from all of the judges. However, just being able to share our art and see so many other performances is an experience I will never forget. Mark Bogovich directed the WeGo drama stage productions with Nicole Stadler. Technical direction was by Christopher Jensen. The student film was directed by Riley Salazar with Alexander Bradley. Congratulations to all of you. Congratulations.
Congratulations to our WeGo drama winners. Okay, that brings us to public participation. This is the portion of our meeting where any member of the public can address the Board of Education on any topic. We welcome your comments and will carefully listen to your concerns. We will not be able to engage in a dialogue during public participation, but when appropriate, we will direct the administration to follow up. Presentations are limited to no more than 5 minutes per person, with a total time limit of 30 minutes for public participation. Personal charges or complaints against individual employees, volunteers, or students of the district should not be initiated during public comment. If anyone currently present wishes to make public comment and hasn't already done so, please fill out one of the comment forms in the back of the room and hand it to someone seated at the table. So we did receive several electronically submitted ones, so we'll go through those first. The first one is from Kelly Ashline regarding dedicated teachers and administrators. I wanted to take a minute to talk about the wonderful and dedicated teachers that work at Community High School. In the 2 years that my son has been a part of the school, we have felt welcomed and embraced by the school community. The teachers go out of their way to make sure the students have an unforgettable high school experience. I couldn't possibly name every teacher that has gone out of their way for us because I fear I would accidentally leave someone out. The teachers truly seem like they love their jobs. As an educator, I know that having a strong culture and happy teachers can be very rare at times. The principal is visible and present, always smiling and engaging with parents and students. This is truly a special community, and we could not be more proud to be parents of a child at Community High School. All of this and more has compelled me to write this note to the Board of Education. Thank you for supporting public education in West Chicago, Winfield, and Carroll Stream. Kelly Ashline. Second one is from Cruz Maria Barrios. And the comment is, hello, good evening. I do not agree with the 3% increase in the superintendent's salary. The next one is from Maria Carrasco. The comments are, I'm against giving raises when the money can be used to support Students' Academy. The next one is from Daisy Fernandez, and the topic is student Alexa D. Correa. Dear West Chicago School Board members, my name is Daisy Fernandez, and I am the mother of Alexa D. Correa, Jr. at West Chicago High School. Alexa is an extraordinary honor student who has worked extraordinarily hard to earn her induction into the French Honor Society. As part of her 4-year plan, she earned a nomination to take the school trip with her fellow classmates to Paris, France. After all the excitement, planning, preparation, arrangements, and financial commitments made on Thursday, March 23rd, my daughter was one of the 18 passengers from West Chicago ready to board her flight to France. Upon check-in at the airport, chaperone Anderson called informing me that my daughter was not allowed to board the flight because Europe has a rule on passport validity that my daughter did not meet. According to Mr. Anderson, a passport must not expire 6 months from the date of travel. Alexa's passport expires this June and thus could not participate unexpectedly. You will never imagine the feeling when looking at your child's eyes after all of her dreams are crushed to pieces, after you have to leave work to pick up your daughter at the airport and the rest of her group boarded a plane without her. Her dream of spending her 17th birthday in Paris and 4-year-long plan were all taken from her, and there was absolutely nothing I could do as a parent to fix it. I immediately called the passport agency into the following week to schedule an emergency appointment to no avail. This was a major oversight and miscommunication on the part of the World Languages Department, the French Honor Society, and West Chicago High School. After questioning how this happened, West Chicago High School staff stated this passport requirement information was posted in the first parent presentation in October, and that the agency the school department works with was unclear in their response when questioned about this specific matter. I made multiple payments within the timeline requested and provided passport information appropriately, and this was never discovered and corrected on the end of the West Chicago High School and their travel company. If this was really a requirement to attend this trip, it should have been taken care of ahead of arriving at the airport to check in for boarding. Everything was covered and prepared for on our end as parents: money, luggage, care packages, presents, even down to a cake for her to share with her host family. My husband and I work extremely hard. We made significant sacrifices to make this trip happen for Alexa. I trusted West Chicago High School would have all their bases covered when it came to taking our daughter and other students out of the country for an educational opportunity. I would like to know who oversees the travel agency and their contract, who verifies passport validity before taking payment in full. Out of everything that happened, I only received one phone call from a West Chicago administrator, division head of world languages. After that call, all the communication was between the agency, teachers, me, and my student. I am an active member of the West Chicago community and West Chicago High School, including being a former member of your PTAC. My daughter, as well as any other hardworking student, should not have to endure the heartache and disappointment my daughter went through the entire week leading through spring break. A couple of days ago, I received an email stating I would get a credit for the airfare, but no credit will make up for the tears and disappointment my daughter and our entire family had to go through. Moving forward, I hope this message makes an impact on you, because this should not have happened to my daughter, and I do not want this to happen to anyone else. If you have any additional information, I can be reached at, and then she gives her phone number. And the last electronically submitted one was from Blanca Ruiz, and the topic is Good New for WeGo. I would like to recognize our TCD professional cooking and baking service winning the Pro Start competition on March 11th, 2023. Michelle Garcia, an SRC student, is representing WeGo by doing the prepping and plating for this awesome program that TCD has to offer our students. These students are now preparing to compete at Nationals the weekend of May 2nd. Is there any way WeGo can shout out to Michelle and her team for this wonderful accomplishment? Thank you. And in-person comments. One from Rocio Hernandez.
Ok, buenas tardes a todos.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Ya somos viejas conocidas, ¿verdad?
I think we are kind of well known.
El motivo del por qué estoy
The
aquí.
reason why I'm here,
Número uno,
Number
cada vez
one,
que vengo no hacen
every
caso de lo que
time
yo
I'm here, you
les-
guys don't pay attention
les comento.
for the things that I comment on.
Afortunadamente para ustedes,
Fortunately for you,
este es mi último año porque
this
mi
is
hija
my
es-
last year because my
estamos a 2 o
daughter,
3 semanas de irnos.
yeah,
Y
my daughter
me
and
voy
I
a
were
librar de
about to
ustedes
be
y ustedes se
leaving,
van a
and I
librar
am
de mí.
kind of happy that I'm going to be freeing myself from you.
Yo no sé cómo si duermen tranquilos
I
o
don't
no,
know how you sleep
o si viven muy
in
felices con sus hijos
quiet and in
sabiendo que aquí es
peace,
un
or
desastre.
and even having a good life with your own kids, knowing that this is a very stressful place, a disastrous place.
El punto número 1 que quiero preguntar y,
I wanna ask one
y esta
question.
vez sí quiero respuestas, por
And I
favor.
would like an answer, please.
¿Por qué quieren aumentar un 3%
What- Why do you want an increase at 3% to the superintendent?
¿Por qué quieren? ¿Y quién le hizo la evaluación?
And who did the evaluation?
¿O cómo es que evalúan para que
Or how do you
agarre
evaluate
tanto dinero?
so he can make so much
Él-
money?
Y otras personas, pero principalmente él,
Mainly him, but
sabiendo
along
que
with
no hace
everybody
nada.
else, especially when he doesn't do anything.
por lo menos Dwayne se tomó la molestia de llamarme 2 veces.
At least Dwyer was able to, took the time to call me a couple of times,
Pero él, nada.
but the other one,
No
nothing.
entiendo por qué le dan tanto dinero.
I don't
por qué
understand why
tiene
you
tantas
give him so much money, why
referencias
he has so many
o
references.
económicas que no se merece.
He has so many, you are providing so many economical stimulants that he does not deserve.
Viendo que él en tiempo de COVID
During COVID,
usó el dinero para
he
hacer
used
otras
the money
cosas muy abajo del agua y a
to
la
do things
comunidad hispana no
underwater,
ayudó.
and he didn't help the Spanish community.
Como quiera, todos esos son los impuestos que nosotros generamos.
Obviously, those are taxes that
Y
we all
él
pay.
tiene que dar, y no nomás él, muchas personas tienen que
And not
dar
only
la
him, but a lot of you
razón de
have
por
to
qué
give the
agarran
reason of
tanto
why you are using so much money but you don't do anything.
Y quiero que tengan bien claro que
I
esta
want
vez
you
no
to
vengo
have
a
very
gritar.
clear,
No soy la gritona.
I am not here to yell at
También
you.
puedo tener buenas razones
I can
para
have good
preguntar
reasons
y
to
que
ask,
ustedes tengan la buena voluntad
and
de
hopefully
responder.
you have the goodwill to respond.
Aparte de todo esto, ¿por qué no han hecho un comité para
Also, why
padres
haven't you done
hispanos?
a committee for Spanish-speaking parents?
Por ejemplo, lo que tienen en BPAC.
For
porque
example, kind of like
decían
BPAC.
Verónica Jiménez que existía
Verónica
BPAC
has said
y
that-
no había BPAC.
For much time,
Hasta que
she has said that there was a BPAC and there was not an existing
Luz María
BPAC
Barrios y yo,
until
fue
her
como se
and
hizo un
Maria
algo.
Rubia arrived is when you guys started having BPAC.
y después de ahí las gentes que
After
tomaron
that,
ahora, yo no
people
he
that now
visto que
you
hagan
have,
nada,
I haven't
no se
seen
ha
that
escuchado
they've done
nada,
anything. We don't get to hear anything.
persiguiendo un fin. No era
Not so sure what the
en
goal
sí
is
lo
or
que
what they are
nosotros
trying to
buscábamos.
achieve. This is not what we were trying
Erradicar
to look.
droga, discriminación,
We wanted to get rid of
malas
discrimination,
cosas,
drugs, bad things,
y no han hecho nada.
and they
¿Por
haven't done
qué no hacen
anything.
nada?
Why
Tienen
haven't done
mucho dinero.
anything? They have a lot of money.
Amén del que se va a llevar, se lleva a P. Martino, que al
P.
sol de hoy
Martino.
yo nunca le he visto la cara.
I've never even seen him, and I believe he's taking
El
a lot of
chino
money.
o Chang o Chin o como se apellide,
Superintendent Chang,
se lleva tanto dinero
he
y,
also
que-
takes a lot of
y
money.
los demás están como lacayos
And the rest
cuidándole
of
la
us, like,
espalda.
we're
Eso no
just,
está bien,
you guys are
señores.
just watching his back, and that's not right.
No está bien.
It is not right.
Aparte de todo esto, queremos saber
Overall, we would like to know,
por qué se le da tanto dinero a Martino
why do you give so
a
much
Chang,
money to Martino?
y por qué no han hecho nada para hacer una coalición de padres hispanos.
And why haven't you done anything to... ¿Para qué, perdón?
De padres hispanos.
¿Para qué? ¿Colectar?
Una coalición.
Okay, a coalition of Spanish-speaking parents.
Y aparte, ¿quién evalúa
And who evaluates
las cosas buenas o más malas que
good
buenas
things or
de
the things that are
Chang?
bad more than
¿Por
good?
qué le quieren dar tanto dinero?
Why do you want to give so much money to him?
Porque amén de todo esto hicieron yo sé que todos los muchachos
I know that
que ya
all
están en
kids,
senior
the senior especially,
merecen un baile de prom. Se supone que
they
tiene que
deserve
ser,
a prom
si no
dance.
de gratis, por lo menos una cosa
If it's not
módica.
free, at least some type of fee that is kind of
$140 se me hace
small.
estratosférico para algo,
$140 is a lot of money,
para
horrendous
algo
amount of
así.
money for something like this.
Ellos ponen su mejor esfuerzo.
They try to give their best
de
effort.
cada 100 muchachos que
For
tienen,
each
2 o 3
100
son
100 students,
el
couple of them
problema mediano
are maybe
que
like the
ustedes no han
problem, and you
querido
guys have not
tomar
wanted
en serio.
to take seriously.
Solamente haciendo vete para tu casa o vete a
You guys
una
just tell
escuela
him like, go to
especial o
school, go to
allá
a special
piensan que ya
school,
se lavaron las
and you
manos y
think
eso
you
no
can
está
wash your
bien.
hands, and that's not right.
Eso no está bien.
That is not
¿Qué
correct.
piensan seguirse lavando las manos
Do you
con las
wish to
generaciones que
continue
vienen?
to keep washing your hands with the future
Tomen-
generations? Please take conscious.
Tomen riendas y pónganse ya estamos muy entrados en años todos,
We are
como para
older.
no tomar decisiones y
We
cosas
can take
buenas
decisions
para
that are
nuestra
good
propia
for our
comunidad.
own community.
para todos, para el futuro.
for
Que se
all of
supone
us,
que
for,
ellos son el futuro.
for our students who are the future.
Se supone que ellos
They
son
are
los
the
que
future.
vienen,
They are the ones that are
vienen
coming
impulsando a los que vienen
to
atrás.
push those who have been staying
Y así
behind.
es una cadena. Por
And that's
favor,
a chain, please.
pónganse en esa posición
Please take
de
that
padres o de
position
madres
like
con un
mothers and
muchacho
fathers
problema o un
with
muchacho que está
those kids
haciendo
that have
cosas
problems, troubles,
equivocadas.
of kids that are having committing mistakes. And
También queremos saber
We would like to know
principalmente qué han hecho para involucrarse con la comunidad.
what have you done
Más que nada con la
to
comunidad hispana, que es la más
engage
golpeada.
with the
Desde la
Spanish-speaking
pandemia
community?
es la más
Especially
golpeada.
since COVID, it has been the one
Porque
that has been most
para
devastated.
buena fortuna, las personas que
Because at least for good fortune,
blancos, vamos a
the
decirlo
white
así,
community,
tienen su dinero asegurado.
they have their money
Pero
perhaps insured.
desafortunadamente los que somos hispanos
But
no
we,
todos
the
tenemos
Hispanic
dinero
ones, we
asegurado
do not
y
have that
tenemos
type of
que
money, and
luchar
we have
al
to
doble
fight double,
para poder que
make
nuestros
double
hijos
effort
vengan a la escuela.
to make sure our students come
Como
to
se los
school.
repito,
As
ya
I
se van a
repeat,
deshacer de mí este año,
You don't have to worry
pero
about me anymore. I'm
necesitan
going,
mirar por los que vienen.
but you need to take kind of look ahead for the kids that are coming and the parents that are coming.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And we also have a slip from Maria Lara.
Good evening, everyone.
Creo que me recuerdan porque hace poquito vine con ustedes.
I believe you remember me because I was here a little while ago.
El venir aquí con ustedes no me ha
To be
beneficiado para nada.
here, to have been here has not benefited me for anything.
Mi hijo definitivamente dejó de venir de la escuela.
My son stopped coming to school.
No sé cómo estén trabajando
I don't know
tendencia.
how you are, handling attendance.
Según tengo entendido, Verónica dice que no lo pueden obligar.
Supposedly, Veronica has said that you guys cannot obligate him.
Luché traerlo a febrero como
I
3 veces
fought
a
to
mediados
bring
de
him
febrero.
in February, around the middle of February.
Y lo único que me dijo
And
es
the only
que
thing that
Antonio del
he
Real le
said
dijo
that
que
Antonio
no le estuviera
Real,
ocasionando problemas.
please do not be causing problems.
Y dijo definitivamente,
And he
ya no
told
voy
me
a la escuela.
definitely I'm not going to school then.
A un lugar donde me critican,
Because there's a place that criticizes me.
cómo me porto,
They tell me how I'm behaving,
y nada más están viendo qué estoy haciendo.
but they're only watching what I'm doing.
¿Cuál es la motivación que aquí les están dando
What
para que
is-
los niños vengan a la
What is the
escuela?
motivation that you are giving the students so they can want to come to school?
Cambié mi horario para traerlo a
I
la escuela.
changed my time, my schedule at work, so I could bring him
Yes.
personally to school,
Porque aquí
and
lo
that didn't even
critican
work because here you
Y
guys
no hacen nada
criticize
para
him
que él permanezca en clases.
and don't do anything for him to be able to stay in classes.
¿A dónde más tengo que acudir?
Where else can I go?
¿Qué tengo que hacer?
What do I need to do?
¿O qué tengo que esperar?
Or what do I have to wait?
¿Que digan tu hijo está muerto, por ejemplo?
For someone to tell me that my son is
Quizás lo
dead?
aplaudan
Maybe you guys applauded?
porque nunca me avisaron de nada a mí.
Because never have you guys told me anything.
¿Que consumía drogas aquí? Sí.
You guys
Tengo
told me
las
that
pruebas
yes,
de
he
que aquí
had
las
drugs
estaba
that here he was
obteniendo.
getting them from.
¿Qué más necesito hacer?
What else do I need to do?
Como madre estoy luchando por mi
As a
hijo
mother, I am fighting for my son
día a día.
every day.
No sé a dónde más tenga que ir, pero
I
no me
don't
voy a
know where
vencer.
else I'm going to have to go, but I'm not going to give up.
Tengo que sacarlo adelante.
I need to make sure he moves forward.
Y no sé a quién más voy a acudir o a quién tenga que
And I don't
recurrir.
know who else to reach out to. I
Pero
don't
mi
know.
hijo tiene que regresar a la escuela.
My son needs to come back to school
Porque aquí fue donde estaba consumiendo las drogas.
because he was here where he was
Aunque lo
consuming drugs.
nieguen,
Even if
yo lo
you
traía
guys
todos
are
los
not
días.
believing that I was bringing him here,
No me avisaban que no entraba a clases.
you guys were not telling me that he wasn't coming to school.
Y fue donde yo le perdí la pista después
And
porque no
that's when I
sabía
kind
dónde
of
estaba.
stopped knowing where he was because no one told me that he wasn't here at school.
De hecho, muchos maestros
A
estuvieron
lot
en
of
contacto
teachers
conmigo
were in contact with me,
avisándome que mi hijo no
letting me
estaba
know
entrando a
that he
clases.
wasn't coming to school.
Mejor que los que se encargan de tendencia.
Better than those who take care of attendance.
En algunas semanas estuve trabajando
Some
junto
of the
con
weeks
los
I was
maestros.
working with some of the teachers.
Él hacía perfectamente sus
He
trabajos.
was doing his work perfectly.
Entonces, ¿qué pasó después?
But then what happened?
Tenía que estar aquí las 24
I
horas del
needed
día
to
yo
be
para
here
vigilarlo
24
a él.
hours a day so I could take vigilance over him.
Me gustaría que trabajaran en todo eso
I would like
ustedes,
for you to work on that.
ya que son la cabeza de la high school.
You are the head of the high school.
Porque en varias ocasiones me cerraron la
Various
puerta
occasions you guys closed the doors on me,
y perdí mucho tiempo por mi hijo.
and I lost a lot of time with my son.
Muchas veces tienes que hacer cita.
Many times I had to make appointments.
Marcaba y nunca
I would call
contestaba.
and no one
¿Cómo
will
es que
answer.
tenemos que hacer la cita?
How is it that I need to make an appointment?
Verónica lo único que hace
Veroni-
es criticar cómo mandamos un correo
only
electrónico.
criticizes how we send
Yo no tengo
email.
el título universitario que tiene
I
ella.
do not have the university
le queda
title
estar
that
criticando
she
a los
doesn't, but
padres de
she
familia.
shouldn't be criticizing parents.
Y tengo testigos de eso.
And I have witnesses of that.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, that brings us to reports and information. There will be no superintendent's report tonight, so that brings us to business services report.
Thank you. Just a few items to update the board on tonight. First is the budget process and that timeline for next school year. Emails are going to go out to the department heads this week. I should complete those meetings by early May. I plan to have a similar timeline as last year with presentation of the tentative budget in August and approval at the September board meeting. There are still plenty of unknowns at this point with regards to revenues, such as which tier will be in for EBF and how much funding we should expect from CPPRT. With regards to expenses, salaries and benefits should be pretty straightforward with CBAs completed and accounting for our annual purchase services and supply expenses. After that, we can determine how much is left for facility projects. An update on construction. As I noted last month, Integral's construction subcontractor, Mechanical Concepts, went out of business. Mechanical Concepts had a lot of our already purchased equipment in their warehouse. Due to legal issues and bankruptcy laws, we were told that the items would have to be auctioned off and Integral would have to repurchase the items through that auction. Integral will have to deal with the lawyers on how they're going to get those funds back. This did have us a bit worried as some of those items had longer lead times if we needed to reorder them. And if Integral didn't win the bids, then we'd have the possibility of those projects not happening over the summer and those being delayed again. Luckily, Integral was able to secure all items at the auction. Overall, the equipment cost was about $25,000 to $30,000. To ensure that we have all the equipment ready to go for this summer, we will be storing the majority of the equipment at our facility until that project starts. And then, if you haven't seen the robot that's currently scrubbing our hallway, we've had the robot for about 2 weeks. The Pringle Robotics team has spent a lot of time in the building getting zones mapped out, working with any issues that arises. We currently have 4 zones, which include the majority of the first floor, including the field house. We have it separated out by hallways. This is the zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. Our current goal is to run the robot through 1 zone per shift. The robot can easily accomplish 1 zone on 1 charge and 1 tank of water, which was good to find out. There's still a few hiccups to work out with the mapping of the building, but overall we're gaining confidence that we can just leave it alone and let it do its thing. The staff and students have all interacted well with it on the first shift, with the main question being, what are we going to name it? Overall, our custodial team thinks it's doing a good job and it could be a worthwhile investment. At this point, Pringle Robotics will let us pilot the robot for basically as long as we want until some people, right now there's going to be other districts probably coming to see it, and as long as those other districts want to come see it, we can hang on to it. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dan. Human Services report.
All right, good evening. I'll start my report with FOIA requests. The district has received 4 FOIA requests since the last meeting. The first FOIA request is from Cheryl Moore for the detailed expenses paid from the superintendent's office and employee benefits departments per the 3-year budget actual total report posted with the March 21st, 2023 board meeting agenda, as well as other records that would explain the variance to the budget. The second FOIA request is from Data Research Partners, LLC, for a listing of all Community High School District 94 employees, first and last names, email address, title position, and primary campus department location. The third FOIA request is from Dulce Ocampo with SV Enterprises for a copy of the current snow contract and bid tabulations for 2022 to 2023 snow bids. And the final FOIA request is from Local Labs for a copy of the district's current mission statement and any previous mission statements, provided they've been changed in the recent past. Next, the Appendix B committee met in March and again in April to revise our administrative procedures for adding a new club or activity. Under the existing procedures, a club or activity must exist for a minimum of 4 consecutive years on a trial basis before it is guaranteed pay. We found that this is a much longer trial period than comparable high schools, and that it's difficult to maintain clubs and incentivize sponsors to work on a voluntary basis for that long. As such, we modify the procedures so that new clubs and activities still remain on a probationary status for the first 4 years, but that those that meet eligibility criteria would be recommended for a stipend in the appropriate Appendix B group annually beginning in year 2. Those clubs and activities that make it through the 4-year probationary period would then be recommended for addition to the Appendix B grid with full club and activity recognition in year 5. With these updated procedures, we will plan to bring year 2 through 5 club and activity recommendations to the board annually for approval, and then the corresponding sponsor positions will also need to be posted annually in accordance with the CBA. I plan to bring the first such recommendation to the regular board meeting in May. In addition, as a reminder, the deadline for board members to file their statement of economic interests under the Illinois Governmental Ethics Act is Monday, May 1st, 2023. And finally, you'll find an updated personnel report at table. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Julie. Principal's report.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking our parents and students and board member Ms. Munoz, who served on our Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee. We conducted our final meeting of the year on April 5th. We spent time discussing and updating on our efforts to increase student attendance. We provided the group with our year-to-year data, our interventions that have been implemented, and gathered input on further strategies to consider for next year and beyond. Additionally, we discussed how the committee can help the school find innovative ways to gather parent feedback to help guide many of our efforts, including our parent engagement series. Finally, the group also discussed our new Tier 2 interventions this year and how to ensure students are aware of them, of what is available, and how to utilize those supports. Last week, we conducted our annual SAT, PSAT, and Illinois Science Assessment testing. These are tremendously large undertakings that require the entire school to organize and pull off. Our staff and students, as always, were phenomenal. I want to particularly thank Ms. Jenna Wint, Mr. Nick Perry, Mr. Steve Balhan, and Mr. Scott Albright, who really took the lead on these assessments, and they do a wonderful job doing this. I also want the board to know that next year, SAT and the College Board are planning that all SAT and PSATs will be given digitally in the spring across the entire country. We are already in the early planning stages of that major change, as there could definitely be hiccups in the implementation of an all-digital SAT given to every high school junior, sophomore, and freshman on the same day. I'll keep the board updated when and if any new information regarding that change comes out. I want to publicly acknowledge 3 wonderful staff members who were recognized last week by the Illinois Activities Director Association. Krista Shanebeck, Beth Shuck, and Jen Culbertson were recognized for Outstanding Activity Advisor Awards for their work on ROAR. As I have reported before to the board, ROAR is a phenomenal program founded and based in student social emotional well-being. Other schools often visit WeGo to observe ROAR and take it back to their own schools, in large part because Krista, Beth, and Jen do such a wonderful job. I also want to take this opportunity to update the board on our continued work in the safety audit that was completed in October. As you may recall, the audit generated 38 specific recommendations. As of my last report in December, we had completed 22 recommendations. We are in progress on 5. We were reviewing 7, and 4 had been deemed not applicable to us. As of this meeting, we have completed 2 additional items for a total of 24, and 3 of the items that were under review have now moved to the in-progress phase. Again, the work we are doing in this area impacts both our procedures and our facilities. I will continue to update the board as we make additional improvements this year, over the summer, and beyond. Yesterday, myself, our dean's office, and the activities director completed meetings in the morning and afternoon with all of our students who will be attending prom on Friday night. It is safe to say that the kids are awfully excited. And ticket sales would show that we have over 600 students attending prom at the Museum of Science and Industry on Friday night, which is significantly higher than what we typically have, but we are looking forward to a great evening. Also in the world of student activities, the following week we'll kick off our musical, Freaky Friday, which will run on April 27th, 28th, and 29th. The next week marks the start of AP testing, and then it will be just a short bit of time until we have Senior Honors Night on May 15th, followed very quickly by commencement on May 17th at NIU. Needless to say, very busy time of year, very exciting, and all the traditional events that we use to conclude our year are just about to begin, so we're excited. Finally, you have the discipline and attendance report in your packet, and that concludes my report.
Thank you for that, Will. Committee and representative reports. Anything from the world of SACID?
Let's see here. Well, SACID had a job fair that D94 participated in, along with several other districts in the county. They felt that was very successful, and that's pretty much my update for SACID this month. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to future dates. There will be a special.
From the PTAC committee. I was
Oh.
on there as a board member.
Sure.
That I felt really valuable, in addition to everything that Dr. Dwyer mentioned, was meaningful and responsive academic support through like SEL modules or curriculum in school suspension, which I thought was extremely valuable. And then going along with the parent network, that parent survey that Dr. Dwyer mentioned, the value in parents, this was actually brought up by a parent, which I thought was really important to highlight, was the meaningful connection between parents to understand the value in filling out those surveys and having parents connect to other parents in order to share how meaningful.
Thank you for that update. Future dates, there will be a special and organizational Board of Education meeting on May 2nd, as well as a Committee of the Whole meeting on May 2nd, a regular Board of Education meeting on May 16th, Committee of the Whole meeting on June 6th, and regular Board of Education meeting on June 20th. And that brings us to open comment for board members. Hearing none, that brings us to future issues.
I had two. Was wondering if we can have a measuring the success of our ESL program for a presentation and discussion as board members. And then, so want to talk a little bit about the parent-teacher advisory meeting. You guys talked about all the great things that we're doing with truancy and everything we're doing to help reduce that. Can we have more discussion about the number of phone calls and visits that we're doing with that?
In what capacity?
Okay.
In terms of, I want to wrap my head around, maybe we can talk more. The numbers of calls for an individual student or overall, because we don't currently, we track all of it through PowerSchool. So when you look up an individual student, you can see everything that's been, all the interventions, contacts, all of that by student. I don't know if that is under our current practice, if that is coalesced in one data point, if that makes sense.
Are you looking for general information on like what kind of follow-up we're doing and how effective it is with attendance issues?
I think one of the things that we discussed, correct me if I'm wrong, was like barriers, specific barriers, whether it's a housing barrier, whether it's a financial barrier, whether, what barriers are being communicated to staff that are conducting home visits, or even through the valuable cold calling nights or calling events that the attendance office is doing. What are the barriers that parents are facing?
I think one of the great things about, I think we talked about it too in the PTAC, the structure we've gone with the additional social work and counselors is that it's a teaming process. So the ones who are visiting home, that's that student's team. It's their social worker, their dean, or their counselor, whoever it might be. So it isn't a matter of, hey, what's the most likely scenario it could be? They know that kid. So they know, hey, this is a housing issue, an economic issue, a social emotional issue. So we have really tried to pinpoint it and individualize it, because at that point, I think in the last 2 years, we've really seen those reasons for a lack of attendance change. I think 2 years ago, I would have told you predominantly social emotional, pandemic related. 2 years later, I feel like it is there is no one dominant issue that I would point to that accounts for the majority of our attendance issues. Rather, it's individualized by student.
There's got to be trends, though, that, you know, things that you're really seeing across the border. Just going off of things like how many families are evicted, you know, on a daily, weekly basis. Can even too. Those are, you know, consistently across the board, some of the bigger barriers. So, like, I think that we would like to see kind of a better picture of what parents are facing. You know, what are those barriers? And it could be, I don't know, like a spreadsheet that would capture the things that are trending across the board. Because I would assume that, you know, we could find trends in that data.
Okay, so if I heard correctly, then we're looking at two different requested future items. One is information on how we do and can measure the success of our ESL program, and the second one is information on follow-up for attendance-related issues. Is that what we're looking for? Any other future issues?
Are there ongoing plans for a summer retreat? We talked about that a couple of times, and
Yeah, we do need to do something like that. We don't have anything specific yet.
well, it's getting kind of late to be scheduling and planning something for summer now, so I would say we need to put some focus on there if we're going to expect to do anything this summer.
Anything else?
I would agree with Rich. We need to get that moving forward as soon as possible.
I think we had discussed actually trying to get a useful retreat, not just a canned package from ISB.
Yeah, Moses had been asked to look into that and has not gotten back on anything, so I'll press further on that. All right, that brings us to consent agenda. Does anybody wish to remove any items from the consent agenda for separate action? Hearing none, we would be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting, March 21st, 2023, the closed session Board of Education meeting, March 21st, 2023, the approval of the financials as presented, and the approval of the personnel report that was distributed at table.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Casey Mayer.
Aye.
Mr. Ramus.
Aye.
Ms. Munoz. Aye. Mr. Nagel.
Aye.
Mr. Sake.
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye. All right, that brings us to new business, superintendent salary increase. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve a 3% increase for Dr. Cheng's 2023 to 2024 salary.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sake.
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer.
Aye.
Mr. Ramus.
Aye.
Ms. Munoz.
Nay.
Mr. Nagel.
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us to laundry service bid approval. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the laundry services bid for Cintas Corporation, Romeoville, Illinois, in the amount of $126,484.80 for the 3-year period starting fiscal year 2024 through fiscal year 2026.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Zuniga.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer.
Aye.
Mr. Ramus.
Aye.
Ms. Munoz.
Aye.
Mr. Nagel.
Aye.
Mr. Sake.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. The next item is strategic plan. Let me give a brief introduction to this topic. It is a common best practice for school districts to go through a strategic planning process approximately every 5 years. We are definitely due for this process. Strategic planning is a useful experience for all organizations regardless of their size. In the past, I've been involved in several strategic planning cycles for both Winfield District 34 as well as the Winfield Public Library. Both of those organizations are much smaller than District 94, and the planning process and the outcomes proved to be very valuable. The most recent strategic planning process that I was a part of in District 34 was in 2014 to 2015. It was within an organization that is now called Catalyst for Educational Change. I checked with them to see if they were still helping schools with strategic planning and was surprised to find out that Dee Molinari, who used to work with us as part of the School Board Association, is now a part of that organization. A strategic plan is not a straitjacket that locks our district into a path. It is a living document that can always be adjusted by the board and administration at any time if needed. This is a chance to look at the big picture, to evaluate the mission, vision, and goals of our district, and to come to a consensus on what the preferred future of our district looks like. A strategic planning process is an opportunity for our district leadership to connect with our community. The process normally includes stakeholders, including teachers, support staff, administrators, parents, board members, partner school districts, community leaders, community residents, and more. Our district is doing great work, and conducting a strategic plan in no way is a criticism of our current efforts. School districts are led by local school boards because each community is different and has different needs and goals. This board represents our community, and by going through this process, we can get a much better understanding of what our community needs and wants. Especially with all that has changed in recent years, this would provide us with an opportunity to cast a new vision for what kind of high school our community needs us to be. And with that, I would open the floor for discussion.
I was surprised to see this pop
I
up.
would like to propose that we delay any action item and put this on a committee of the whole meeting as soon as possible so it can be discussed. I don't think we should be put in a position at this point to have to vote on it, especially without someone who would be critical to answering any board questions that we may have. Specifically, our superintendent not here and available to have that discussion tonight. I don't think there's any urgency in making this happen, since everything our administration has been doing has been planned out very, very strategically, and post-COVID, that is doing the best anybody can. But this is a serious topic that deserves a lot of discussion before being moved to an action item. So I would strongly urge us to table this and put it on the next committee of the whole agenda.
I would agree with Catherine and want to make sure that the board had a good understanding and expectation of the objectives of going through the strategic plan, what it would involve on the part of the board, the community, and the administration, and have more of a discussion than having it just pop up kind of out of the blue for a motion.
I can understand where you're coming from with that. I think it would be in everybody's best interest, in order to learn more, is to have them come out and give a presentation to tell us more about it, so we're not debating on things that maybe we're not all well versed in. I'd be very happy to have Dee or somebody from the organization come out and give us a presentation on what having a strategic plan for D94 would entail. I think that's very important to have that outside viewpoint and information.
I agree. I think this is a good thing to have, and it's like Bob said, it's like a living document. We don't get locked in. We can always add new things, and I think it would bring great involvement to everyone that involves this wonderful community. So,
and I'll reiterate what Bob said too. I do think we've been doing great things here, lots of great things, taking care of the students. But it is also very important to have input from the community, and sometimes I think we need more of that. And I'm hoping that a strategic plan would include that input from the community, because that's a big reason why we're here.
As a team member, I'm on board with opening up the discussion at a committee of the whole meeting, but I do want to take a moment to definitely thank Bob for being intentional about keeping this on the forefront of depicting an accurate and clear and a current picture of our community, which I think is definitely needed. So thank you.
I concur with it moving to a committee of the whole discussion.
So is there a consensus that we invite Dee Molinari to come out and give us a presentation on what their perspective on strategic planning and what they would be able to offer to us if we were to partner with them would entail?
I would think that would come after further discussion at the board level of what we would anticipate benefiting from the strategic plan would be before we invite somebody in to sort of infer that there's a commitment that we're moving forward. I think there's some discussion, and I'm not sure there's the urgency of an immediacy to move on this.
Well, the point of one of the points of her doing this would be to have her give that explanation of this is what the impact might look like for our district. This is how it might be beneficial and what it would entail.
I, for one, would like that. I base my decisions on being informed, and I would need to have that in order to make a decision. I know that we had talked before the pandemic about changing and updating our mission statement. I think that's an excellent idea. We didn't get that opportunity because the pandemic occurred and our minds and thoughts were busy taking care of other items. So I think this all goes hand in hand to coming back to that. And I believe it was Dee was the one who was here who suggested that was an item that we should take care of. So I'm very heartened that she would be somebody that would come out, somebody that's familiar to us, somebody that we know, somebody that we, kind of trust already, to give us an open, honest evaluation on the pros and cons of doing a strategic plan for D94.
As to the timing, typically the ideal time to launch the formal part of a strategic planning process would probably be September into October. It's a several-month-long process, and so you want to launch it after everybody's back from summer vacation and things are up and running again, with the hope that maybe by March the following spring, we might have a final strategic plan to approve at that point. So the timing would be, if we're going to do this, start getting the process laid out so that it's ready to start come fall.
I don't disagree at all that having Dee come and talk to us about the pros and cons would be beneficial, as long as we all keep in mind that she would be selling a service, and post-pandemic world has had a pretty significant change in businesses, not-for-profits, all kinds of entities' view of what a strategic plan does. If anything at all, we've learned from the pandemic that we've got to be able to pivot and quickly and to totally unexpected circumstances. So I think it's important that if we have Dee, we also have a lot of time to discuss the pros and cons, because it's money that, we'd be spending that we really need to think about what is it going to accomplish. And many businesses and other entities have found that they come up with strategic plans that no longer have any relevance whatsoever in the world. And we're in a world right now where it's pretty difficult to predict what things will look like in a month, let alone 5 years from now. So it's something that I think we really need to have a lot of discussion and open dialogue about, and it might not be a bad idea to also have that after we have our retreat, and have that piece in place too, where there's a better understanding of the board's role and how to look at a vision. We're going to have to make some decisions about what the purpose is of it, what the process is of it. And there's a lot of pieces coming into play with the strategic plan. It's not just something we all hop into and do overnight. So having Dee's input would be absolutely valuable, but giving us sufficient time to discuss it and understand what what the river is that we're stepping into and trying to cross needs to be a huge part of it too.
So it sounds like a good next step would be to arrange to have Dee come out and do her presentation, answer questions and so forth, and then following from that, have a board discussion on, all right, what are we feeling at this point? Are we ready to move forward, et cetera? That sound reasonable?
That sounds good.
A couple things I wanted to share. First of all, I think that it is extremely valuable to the process, and it kind of worries me that we're so hesitant to, be able to represent the community's needs and voice accurately and transparently. I think this is a good opportunity to do that. In the same way that we sign 5-year contracts for staff members, we would be signing we would be committing to a strategic plan that could not only unveil what we're doing well, but opportunities for growth, and overall a data-driven picture that clearly aligns with the needs and the opportunity to represent all stakeholders in our district.
I agree more.
There's ways to do that without a strategic plan also, and those are things that we need to discuss as part of that discussion pre-strategic plan, because again, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, Penny. I think we do need to have those conversations, but we can look at those before we start with a strategic plan, and we can put some pieces. If we see room for improvement, we can do those immediately and not have to wait the however many months for a strategic plan. A strategic plan is something, it's a vehicle that's separate from having those discussions that you're seeking. So they can be do simultaneously, but if we only focus on the strategic plan and getting it done, we're pulling administration, staff, community members in to spin the wheels on something that we could be getting, boots on the ground doing right now. So having that strategic plan is an important conversation to have, but let's also immediately look at things we can do now and not pin it all on the strategic plan, because that doesn't happen overnight. That's a long, long process. And I think Dean would be helpful in us understanding that process.
I'm really confident in Bob's timeline as we've discussed it. I think, for me anyway, I feel like we've waited long enough. I mean, a whole pandemic went by, and I think this is the opportunity to align our systems and our structures. And again, we'll be representing the community's needs and input, but also doing it with intention. And again, it's been a long time that we've even done this. So it makes me uncomfortable or very concerned that we're even hesitant to being open to doing this sooner rather than later, because I think we've waited long enough.
This should be a welcoming opportunity, I think.
Hesitant to have the conversation. We're being hesitant to have it as an action item this evening without more information and more discussion about it. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that could happen next month with the committee as a whole. I don't want to delay this any longer than necessary, but I do think this is not, without that discussion, we should not be voting on it.
Well, there is no vote right now. There's no
already.
motion on the table right now.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we decided on waiting to committee of the whole and bringing in D.
It sounds like the next step, regardless of which meeting it's at, it sounds like the next step is to bring Dee in to give this presentation, and then to give the board a lot to think about as far as that next discussion and those next steps.
I disagree on waiting for D. I think D needs to be part of that conversation.
Yes.
And again, we need to do it sooner rather than later.
Yes, sooner rather than later, yes. All right, so it sounds like that takes care of a consensus on moving forward with continuing the discussion and bringing Dee out here and see how that goes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and our last item for business is Student Travel Life Smarts National Championships. Life Smarts is requesting a trip to Cincinnati, Ohio, which is beyond a 250-mile radius of West Chicago Community High School, according to Policy 6:240. Field trips and recreational class trips. This qualifies as student travel. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve student travel for the Life Smarts National Championships trip to Cincinnati, Ohio, from April 27 to 30, 2023.
I'll move.
Okay.
Any discussion? Roll call.
I just want to definitely kind of get more clarity on who would be the contact person, because as we heard earlier with the student who wasn't able to take the France trip, who would be the point person in contact all the way through the process and not just go off of a presentation that a parent heard at the beginning of the school year, but leading up to it, because I think that there's clearly an opportunity to kind of revisit all the important needs to know right before the trip is taken and not have another student experience what the student experienced and not going on the France trip.
You talking about this trip to Ohio?
Yeah.
The sponsor, Mr. Zablin.
So he would be connecting with the parents right up until the trip?
Right, and this is, so it's Ohio, so the passport and there's no outside vendor issues except for
But even it sounds
possibly
like
a coach bus, but I think we'd be taking a minibus.
And I guess I'm more concerned with the communication because I think the communication was an issue.
And I can follow up with you on the communication and that it was there. So we can talk about that incident specifically into that detail.
Okay, at this point, looking for a roll call.
Mrs. Doremus.
Kathy?
Sorry, Cheryl, did you call me?
Yes, I did. Sorry.
Aye.
Ms. Munoz.
Aye.
Mr. Nagel.
Aye.
Mr. Sake.
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer.
Aye.
All right, motion carries, and there being no further business to come before the board, is there a motion to adjourn?